Yeah, I can hear you
Great.
now.
Nice. Because I'm using the Zoom from browser and I needed to change some setups.
Awesome. All right, great to have you on the call today. How you doing?
Very good. Thank you very much. And I just wanted to ask, where are you based? Are you
I'm
in
ba-
England or?
now I'm based in Lagos, Nigeria.
Mhm.
What about you?
In Bratislava, in Slovakia.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. How's it over there?
It's very good. I just have one more question because you have very good English. And
I
how is it
appreciate
so?
that.
Like,
Oh
have you been in
yeah.
England or?
No, so during my secondary school. Actually, I'm recording right now, so I hope that's fine.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
And I think it'd be really good for me to share the story here because people barely ask me the question, except, when they meet me physically and then they want to learn more. I appreciate you asking that question. So yeah, during my secondary school days, I went to
Mm-hmm.
a private UK school in Nigeria. So of course,
Oh,
I'm a software developer and I work with people home and abroad, but it wasn't really there from the onset. From the onset, it was a private UK school in Nigeria. We had a
uh-huh.
UK director, and before then we had a Nigerian director. But then the director of the school, his son came into town, and his dad made him the new director of the school. So he big time changed a lot of things. He wanted teachers way back, they tried to adjust, and then we had new teachers, Britain like teachers, and stuff like that. So I was pretty early, yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much about it.
I'm really surprised because usually here in not only in Slovakia but in Europe, no one has a British accent. With he didn't go directly to Britain because it's quite hard.
That's right. Appreciate you asking. Awesome. So yeah, let's do this. We got probably 40 minutes, but we're gonna make it's gonna be an exciting one. I am super excited to have you on the show today. It's been a minute. We've
Thank
been
you.
trying to make it work, but of course, oh, yeah, you've been busy with some other things, and I appreciate you actually doing this with me today.
Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate it as well that you called me.
Oh, my pleasure. All right, so let's get into how you got into tech, learn about your journey. And I mean, okay, you started off with a question, so I didn't get a time to do the proper introduction. But hello, everyone,
Mhm.
and welcome back to the George Chris podcast. Today, I've got another guest, Marek Panti,
Yeah.
and he's an Angular developer. He works at Multitude. So we're gonna have an amazing time today talking about lots of beautiful things. So do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself to the people, let the audience learn about you?
Yeah, sure. Uh, Hello, and thank you for inviting me here.
My
Well,
pleasure.
currently I work as an Angular developer, as you mentioned, but I try to focus on front end overall and on every framework and JavaScript itself. Uh, and how I get into the tech? Well, actually, it's quite funny story because
Oh
when
yeah.
I was in secondary, I actually wanted to study biology and chemistry, but we had a little bit complicated situation in my family, so I wasn't able to start university right after my high school. So I decided that I will start my journey actually as a web designer. But after my web designer internship, uh, which took obviously for 3 months, I realized that as a web designer, and when you are starting doing design, you are restricted to use some existing components, some existing UI, and you are just building the blocks of something that is existing. And then I realized that actually maybe in 10 years from now, I will be able to do some design by myself for a company.
Oh yeah.
But this was really boring. And at the same time, I realized that I'm not good at some drawing. I'm not good with some illustration and so on. So after this internship, I realized that I want to start with programming full time.
Awesome.
And yeah, and another funny story. So after this internship ended, I found my first position for a company that created e-shops for eBay. So it was just basic HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And obviously, after some time, it got boring as well because it wasn't framework. It was just a simple fine-tuned website for a shop. So after half of a year working there, I switched to another company where I did AngularJS. And I already thought in my head that, oh, it will be easy to learn something, right? Because I already did quite well in a previous company. But then I realized that I don't have a basics IT knowledge like algorithms. I didn't even know what architecture of API services means. So I needed to learn everything like from scratch again. And then when TypeScript came, then I realized that I don't know what types are. I don't know nothing about object-oriented programming. So doing IT without school was quite a struggle at the beginning. But on the other hand, it helped me to see it from quite from all the layers and from
Okay.
practical point of view, because
Yeah.
I didn't study the theory and I studied only what I wanted. So this was the advantage, I would say.
Yeah, I see that. Awesome. So, is it kind of like a mix? Are you self-taught? Did you go through a boot camp or something like that?
I'm 100% self-taught. I didn't attend any bootcamp actually,
That's awesome.
but uh, but if I knew about it at the beginning, I would.
Yeah.
It would save me 3 or 4 years of struggling.
Yeah. Do you know what? Let me tell you
Sorry,
something funny. You laugh a little bit like Elon Musk.
I don't know.
That's so funny. All right, so I do want to ask you though, why did you decide to specialize in Angular?
Well, actually, it was the second company after the AngularJS. The company is called Palfinger, and they hired me as a junior developer, and I was quite impressed what is possible to do with Angular. It was the first company where I saw monorepositories, micro front ends working all together. There was more than 100 front end developers. Each team was working on some small piece of the large code base, and everything worked really well. Like if I was asked to help some other team, I was able to switch and help them in a second. It didn't take me like 1 or 2 weeks just to read the code and understand what is like their way of working, because Angular is quite opinionated, and if
Yeah.
it is under like one company, even if it is large, it is really maintain like we can maintain it very easily. And I would say that other frameworks do not have this feature or this kind of approach. They can get really complex.
Oh yeah. All right. So what's the hardest part about learning, Angular standalone architecture in your own experience?
Yeah. Well, the hardest part is that I will tell a metaphor. A metaphor would be if a guy who did his whole life backend, if he comes to the Angular world, then it seems it's easy for him at the first sight.
Mm.
But then he is stuck by the wall, which is called a real front end, when he has to deal with the browser's CSS and with events. And also, his mind is kept in the inheritance of OOP.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
in a Angular is kind of OOP, but not really, because we prefer composition over inheritance. And this is where the front-end mind comes in, because front-end was functional before Angular, let's say. With Angular, it's object-oriented, but not really. It's still composite. The design and architecture is still compositional, we can say, and it's enhanced with the TypeScript. The TypeScript might resemble to a backend, but it's not really the same thing. So, in my opinion, this is hard to understand the small nuances and the small differences from each world.
Yeah.
And at the same time, Angular, if you are coming from pure front end world, where you did some, I don't know, some animation, some canvas, some components, then these architecture components and models will be quite hard for you. But still, it's a bit different than everywhere else.
Awesome. Awesome. So, I mean, I looked at your LinkedIn a lot and learned about your blog as well. You know, you write a lot. Absolutely amazing. So, you wrote about zoneless Angular, and I want to learn about that from you. How does zoneless Angular actually improve performance, and what should developers watch out for when using it?
Yeah, this is a very good question,
Thank you.
and a simple. I will elaborate this a little bit further because we first need to realize that when Angular started, it was, I don't remember the year, but let's say AngularJS started 2008 or 9, I don't remember. Then no one really knew what front end is and what front end will be. It was just a try that they were thinking, let's do some framework because now there will be more and more application in the browsers. Let's try something. Yes, let's call it that way. Then they tried. Then React came. React started with a virtual DOM. Yeah, AngularJS they had two-way data binding, and for rendering view there was a scope and a lot of other things. Then a new Angular came, which new Angular is basically a new project. They completely, or not really completely, but they got rid of the old approach. They started something new, but still the rendering thing wasn't optimal. React, yeah, it was quite nice approach, the virtual DOM, but it wasn't really good. On AngularJS, Angular team, they decided that they will use a zone. Zone is built on top of Angular, we can say. Zone is checking basically all events. If you click over some month, if you click with your mouse over something in the window layer, or if you change some data by reference. They are checking basically your mouse move, and when there is some change in one component, it is reflecting and it is starting to check in other components. It has some special life cycle, but at the same time, now you can imagine what I'm talking, that it is doing everything. So
Oh yeah.
performance wise, crazy.
Yeah.
And the second thing, that the Zone.js itself has around 100 kilobytes if it is uncompressed.
I
Actually
see.
more. I
Okay.
think no, it has 100 kilobytes if it is compressed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So this
Nice.
is it gets an addition to the bundle size. And then
Yeah. Okay.
imagine that you wanted to use Angular for a system where you had a lot of events with a keyboard, with mouse. Yes, there were a lot of articles that you should use change detection on push, but it's not really help. It is just, it does some sort of help, but it is still not really a thing that you would want to do. So
Oh yeah.
uh, usually, after we have some issues, usually we resolve them by some very simple pattern and some very simple thing. But that simple thing is really very hard to find out.
Oh yeah.
And Solid.js is a framework that came around. Also, I don't remember the year. Please don't write me in the comments. I will say 2016, 17, whatever.
Okay. Okay.
And Solid.js, in Solid.js, they implemented signals.
Oh
Signal
yeah.
is a simple object that has some properties, we can say, and it has some getter and setter. And signal is basically also, even the name is really good because signals tells you that I will give you signal, so you should render it if you listen to me.
Are signals the future of
Uh,
Angular?
Yes, from version 16.
Okay.
So they started to implement it, and with the signals, you can actually you can think that maybe we don't need a zone if we have signals. But Angular had another problem, that they started early, but they started earlier than a fetch API was implemented by the browser, right?
Okay.
And before fetch API, you had like the promises callback health, or you could use Ajax requests.
Yeah.
And the Angular HTTP client is not using fetch API; it's using like the older approach. So if you wanted to make and to use the older approach in some reactive way, they decided that they will force observables, right? Observables are quite cool if they are used for the right thing at the right time. Angular was using, or is still using, but is stopping this approach, the
Okay.
observables. And imagine if I could tell a metaphor, using observable
Sure.
is like imagine that you want water to drink, and
Yeah.
instead of me giving you a glass, I would firstly build a pipe. I will
Okay.
call some mechanics to build a pipe to
Oh
your house or
yeah.
to you. And then I will just throw the water in the pipe. It will go to you, and then you will drink it from the pipe. Yeah, so it's crazy setup for a simple thing.
Oh yeah, I see. Sure.
And this is what was happening in Angular because we were using, or we are still using observables for one simple call. Then maybe yes, of course, we are merging some of those calls into something, but still nothing hard. On the other hand, the perfect use case for observable would be, of course, event handling. Yeah, but this is another topic. Now I can finish finally what is the
Okay.
Zoneless about. So now with the evolution, with the signals, with the new stable version,
Yeah.
Angular team decided that zone can be now optional. And if you start new application that is signal based, that is zoneless, I had I did some tests, and I think when I started new application without zones, with some basic 2 or 3 components, it had around 18 or 20 kilobytes. With zone, it would have 120.
I see.
So,
I see. Yeah. Sure.
so this changed basically everything.
Nice. All right. And I mean, what's the hardest part of building reusable Angular components? Have you got any advice for beginners tackling such a challenge?
Yes, basically, I would suggest to create, if you are a beginner and you want to create something which is reusable in general, you should try to create something reusable in a plain language, not in a framework. But let's say you want to create a multi-select or a date picker or something of that sort. Try to do it in a plain JavaScript or in whatever language you are doing, and then implement that in a framework. That thinking would help you to think about the architecture and how to distribute properties, methods, and so on. In Angular, you should start with the view logic. So you should think about, well, let's say we are talking about multi-select. Yeah, so multi-select has an input. It has maybe some button. Then it has, when you click in the input, it has a list of items that you can view. So now we are talking about 3 or 4 components, actually, not one. So there is a composition as well. So then you should draw it. You should think that Actually, if I want to create a multi-select, I need to have input style, I need to have some button. And then when I have all these small parts, then I can start thinking, all right, now I need some component. We can call it maybe an abstract component that will render the smaller components in something complicated. And this is multi-select.
Absolutely. That's a great one. All right. Again, I looked at your blog and I just wanted to get into your mind because when you write things that are on your mind, and I just wanted to explore that. And here's a question for you. Why is NGRX a good choice for managing states? And how does it help when scaling larger apps?
Again, very good question. And my simple answer from my experience would be no. And I
Okay.
can elaborate why. Or maybe, not no, maybe.
Okay.
Personally, I wouldn't use any state management at the moment because again, we can go to history when state management were created. They were created in a point where it was really hard to send some data from one component to another component. It doesn't matter if it's React or Angular. Yes, it's the same principle. And then all of those frameworks, even React, who came with Redux pattern, so it was first state management, even they solved it with context API. So suddenly they didn't really need the state management as well. In Angular, on the other hand, it was kind of hype for some reason. And NGRX was one of the first state managements that became sort of official. And it does a lot of things. Yes, it works with observables on behind. It creates a robust state that you can use in whatever manner you want. But there is also a problem that I haven't met, or I met only one person that was using NGRX correctly. And by correctly, I mean that you have flat data, because when you have flat data, you can create selectors in whatever manner you need. You can create selectors in the same way as you are doing joins with the tables on the backend, right?
Yeah.
Usually, in most cases, I can see that in NGRX, you have mixed logic in effects, in reducers, in services, and you have wrapped data in wrapped data. So this is completely wrong. How to say? You have a tool and you are using it wrongly. And from my experience, 70 to 80% of projects are written in that way. Then it became really hard to maintain. So now you can say, all right, but I understand it. I understand how should I write it. Why it's still bad? Well, if you understand how to write it, then it means that you understand how to maintain a clean code and a clean state architecture. Then why do you need state management, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I see.
So that would be my simple answer. Of course, I can elaborate it further, but
Yeah. That was a great one. Yeah. All right. So let's talk about some critical elements for organizing front-end projects for long-term success and maintaining clean code bases.
yes. Well, this is fun topic because
Yeah.
if you are talking about maintaining something from long term, we can now forget about any framework. And in JavaScript or in a web world, which projects are most popular? I would say WordPress, Joomla, Drupal. Then you have PHP, simple JavaScript, and jQuery,
Yeah.
or maybe some first some React Gatsby or very basic Angular. Yes. Uh, so if we are thinking that way, then we should realize that if we want to maintain something, we need a very small amount of libraries and dependencies and third-party dependencies. This is the first aspect. Then when we look on the reality, now it is very popular to have server-side rendering with React, NestJS, Vercel, and so on. Imagine how complicated the situation gets when you realize that each layer is owned by a different company, which might get broke tomorrow.
That's right.
And you are building a big project with the tools that you don't really own.
Yeah.
And which are hard to maintain, and
Yeah.
every step is changing very fast.
Yeah.
And this is again one of the reasons why I stayed with Angular, because we can see that there was a lot of hate on Angular, how Angular is doing things that they are not as fancy as whatever something else is. But now everything is changing. Yeah, now Angular is cherry picking the best patterns, the best technologies. They are still stable. It's still maintainable. So this is one of the things. Second thing is that in every team there has to be at least one person who understands architecture and the impact of having some third-party libraries. Then there is another step, and it is a UI design system. I think it is very important to understand your target audience at the beginning and what do you want to achieve with your design. For example, are you building a software that will be used only by your company, or it's business to business something? If yes, and if it is something professional, then I suggest to use something like Angular material and just change the colors and just change some small things. But if you would use Angular material, PrimeNG, or whatever for a public application, and if you want to have really nice design, and if you would, let's say, extremely change some component styling or behavior, then you will have a problem every half a year when some update comes, because then you will need to refactor. And those are important things that almost no one is thinking about. But
yeah.
but yeah.
Awesome. I mean, that's a great answer. I'm curious to ask, I do know you are an Angular developer, but what's your title at Multitude where you work now? Because your answers are absolutely unique. And you're answering as a senior software engineer, and you're answering as, an engineer with a business mindset. And you've been critical in analyzing your answers very nicely. So I'm curious to ask, what exactly is your title and what to do where you work now?
It's very good questions. I don't really know. It's hard. It's hard. I don't think this title exists.
Well, your answers are absolutely profound. Thank you very much. All right. So here's a question I'd love to learn from you about what skills or all right, so this is gonna be two questions in one. So I want to know what skills or habits are most important for developers to grow and stand out when job hunting. And also, after answering that, you might want to give your advice to those starting their journey in software development today.
Very good question. And
Thank
again,
you.
I will elaborate a little bit my answer.
Okay.
Firstly, I will say that if you don't want to grow and if you want to stay where you are, it's completely fine. Because now everyone is pushing you to grow and to do something more and whatever. It's not really needed. If you are senior or between mid-year and senior level, and you feel that your work-life balance is fine, that you have time with your family and you can do a decent job, and you don't really want to grow, it's completely fine. But if you want to grow, then now I'm going to elaborate. The first thing that I mentioned is because I feel that a lot of people in IT industry are under some pressure and stress,
I see.
and
Yeah, that's right.
it's
Yeah.
not really needed. If you want to grow, then the first thing would be to find some niche where you will be like the best. For example, imagine uh, yeah, it's a cliche to say, but now it's very famous to be like a T-shaped developer. So it means that you should be really great at one thing. Let's say I'm trying to pick Angular. Then I'm trying to broaden my skills in front end overall, and then I might go into the backend. But everything else from Angular, I will learn a little bit more profoundly. Sorry, more not profoundly, but more superficially.
Okay.
So I'm not focusing on that much. If I learn backend, for example, I learned some basics about databases, maybe something about security, whatever. But really, be the best of that one thing that you want to do. That's the first thing.
Awesome.
And the second thing is algorithms are not your is not your enemy, is your friend.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, me as a self-taught developer, I heard a lot from my colleagues that studied at university that you don't really need algorithms. I already forgot what I had at university, whatever. Yeah, that might be true for them, but algorithms should be your friend. You
Yeah,
should
yeah.
actually you should learn it and practice because it's really helpful, especially when you start building components in front end. We often hear that you shouldn't reinvent the wheel,
Oh
but if you
yeah.
create a feature for your project, it's not reinventing the wheel. You just don't want to use some library date picker because library date picker is generic. It's created for everyone. It has a big code base, and you still won't be able to configure that date picker for your project.
Oh
So
yeah.
we want to do something from scratch. And
Yeah.
then you realize that you need some algorithmical thinking.
Awesome.
So definitely this and that will be built on top of that. Then
Nice.
if you want to progress, there are maybe some sort of two ways. You can go strictly as a software developer, or you can become something like a software developer consultant. In that software developer consultant way, I would say communication skills and presentational skills are very important. Not really, you don't have to be like a business person. You just need to be able to communicate properly the architecture of software and understand the final client.
Oh yeah.
So, so two sorts of things.
Yeah. Awesome. So yeah, did he also give you advice to, someone starting the journey in software development today? You did. Awesome. Awesome. That's really great. I mean, we're done with our questions for today. It was gonna be a really short one today, and but I just want to ask you, what are your thoughts on AI?
Mm, Actually, I still don't know. I still don't know. The only thing I can say is that uh, it seems that it will be very important to use it. Now, it's still not, and I'm surprised. It's still not in a workflow of every software developer.
Okay.
So, so if you will use AI for everything, you will damage your brain, and you won't use your own logic, and it can be harmful. So my suggestion is to always, when you are building something, to always create a schema by yourself. Think about the logic by yourself, and to think about some abstract layer about components by yourself, and then you can start using AI. And then when AI creates the code for you, then you can refactor it as you would write it, and then you can create very nice and very big projects in a days or in a couple hours.
Yeah.
But really, I think the thing will be progressing. Even if I don't know, in a couple of years the AI will be able to do even the schema for you, I wouldn't do it, because then your brain will be degrading, and
Oh yeah, I see, I
the
see.
thing. So this is
Yeah.
important.
Awesome. Great. It's been absolutely wonderful so far. I do want to say thank you very much, Marek, for coming on here and doing this podcast with us, with me. I totally appreciate it, and your insights and everything you shared so far today, absolutely profound. Thank you very much. I do really appreciate this.
Thank you very much, Joshua. Thank you also for calling me. I really loved your questions.
Oh,
And it
yeah.
would be pleasure for me. It would be pleasure for me if you will call me next time as well.
Oh yeah, sure, absolutely. Thank you so much. That means a lot. All right, so yeah, I believe you subscribe to all my YouTube channels, right?
Yeah,
Awesome. Thank you very much. What do you want to tell the people to like and subscribe?
yeah, definitely. I would definitely recommend it.
Awesome. All right. So, yeah, that's all for now. Thank you for joining us today, and we'll see you on the next episode. Or actually, you could check out the next episode somewhere. It's going to be somewhere for you to check it out. And yeah.